library is a new library this year which allows you to provide the user login functionality to Windows Live Messenger from their browser, from your website. Essentially, the user authorizes your website to log into the Messenger network on their behalf. So it's a client-side library. It's pure JavaScript, runs across browser in Firefox and in IE, and allows website visitors to completely interact with Messenger. So you can initiate chat sessions, you can send data, you can browse and peruse their contacts, update their contacts, their status message, all these sorts of things. Just as a side note, it is also written in C# and compiled with Script-Sharp. Script-Sharp is a tool that we use internally to write objects in C#, but it doesn't compile to .NET assemblies. It compiles to a JavaScript libraries, so that the clients then can be written either in C# or in JavaScript, because sometimes the C# developers prefer the semantics of that language, whereas JavaScript is a little more doesn't lend itself as often to pure object-oriented nature. Now, to use the Windows Live Messenger library, the users do have to have a live ID. With the chat control we saw before, you could initiate an anonymous conversation because the other end of the control was tied to a specific user. In this case, the Live Messenger library is not tied to a specific user. It's going to let the user chat with anybody on their contacts list. So we have to be able to log them into Live ID to retrieve their contacts list and then initiate that conversation. So it's a little different scenario. And since there is so much more control granted to the application here, then the consent and the opt-in is a little bit different. Whereas the presence in web chat was a one-time opt-in to allow web presence to be available, and this one is granting each individual application permission. So if I write one application, the user comes to my site and they have to consent for my application to be Messenger for them. Then if they go to another site, they'll have to grant permission for that site to be Messenger to log in, because you don't want just anybody to be able to take over somebody's Messenger site. The user has to trust that particular site. So the opt-in is a little different. One of the differences is that the user also has the option to either require themselves to click the sign-in button when they go to the site every time, or they can have the application allowed to automatically sign them in as soon as they pull it up in a browser. And of course, it can always go to this site to visit and revoke the permissions the same way as the other one. Now let me pull that up and just show you how that looks a little different. I don't have any applications in here yet, but from a high-level route, you can see that this is the web settings we were looking at before. So I still have my web presence set up here. But if I go up a little higher, then there's another node. Instead of web settings, I can say applications. And this here would list all the websites that I've granted my application to. And I can come in here at any time and just yank the permissions from that website so that they're not allowed to be my Messenger client anymore. Now, the application, in order to use this, does have some UI requirements. They need to display these various links, how to sign out, what the privacy statement is. They need an About Windows Live Messenger link, that sort of thing. This is typically fulfilled by using the login control that we provide. The login control is a div on your page that provides the login functionality, and is really the only piece of UI that the Windows Live Messenger library provides. Everything else, which is displaying chats, displaying the user's information, displaying his contacts list, his status message, all of that, and the interaction of the web page with the user, all of that is up to the developer. The only UI piece that we actually provide is the login control, and everything else is just plumbing and eventing mechanisms. So what that can look like in the website means that you can make it look like whatever you want. Now, if you go to the MSDN library online and go and find the Windows Live Messenger library section under the Windows Live platform area, then you'll see a tutorial. And if you walk through that tutorial, you'll see this basically helps you build one extremely similar to this particular section. Or if you just want to experience it yourself, you can go up to the mslivelabs.com site noted here and pull this up and play with it. Now, since I'm already logged into Windows Live, it recognized me and logged me in here. So I'm logged into Live, so it recognized me and gave me my name. If I wasn't logged into Live, it would say sign in, and I'd have to sign into Windows Live. And if I click sign in, then you'll see that we'll go through that opt-in consent process. Now this is, you don't have to programmatically hit to us because this is our login control. Let me reduce that back in and down again. This control here is what I said is that login control. So that's all of our rendering. You don't have to deal with that at all. So here's this page that it sent me to. I'm going to let it automatically sign me in every time. And it's also telling me here's the various things that are going to happen. This application is going to be allowed to set my status and display names, add and remove contacts from my messenger. So I'll make sure that I really understand what's going on. And of course, here's their privacy policy if I want to find out what they're going to do, what they are allowed to do with my data based on their policy. And let me click save. Now, since I'm signed into the desktop client, this is going to sign me out of that because I can only be signed into one messenger client at all, and the web messenger is considered a separate client from the desktop client. This is going to go through a process of signing in. It's making some JavaScript calls asynchronously in the background out to the system, and once that happens, the web page gets events notifying it that the sign-in process is complete, and then it can start walking through the object model, and it can determine that my account is ben.williams@live.com, that my status is online, and then here's my personal message. And if I want to, I can change my status, what's available, and I can even initiate conversations. So for example, if I want to initiate conversations with somebody else, I can do that here. And let me sign in here as a different user. You can see here is my, this guy is here, and if I change his status on the website, he changed him to be right back. And websites are fine. Let me change the status message while we're at it. Set that. And then we see immediately that he looks offline and websites are fun. And of course, we can also start a conversation and go from there. All of that is handled through asynchronous JavaScript events. Now, the other example I want to show for this one is a little more full-featured, is how this might look in a real application. The Tafiti application is one which is a search visualization application. It's also a Silverlight app. But ultimately, let me sign in. What's going to happen is I'm going to build sort of a stack of searches. So if you ever do searches and you want to remember what things were you searched for, you can see over here that I did some searching on Zurich, and here are my results. Here's some news and some news articles, and then also here's some what is this? This one, Zurich stuff, and here's one I did some searching on Windows Live Messenger Library. Now let me sign into Messenger on this site. Notice I have to consent again for this site, and it lets me sign in. Once we get done signing in, then now I'm signed in, and if I click on one of these guys here,